And there we are. It's not exactly impressive, is it? Okay, so like I say, I went over them with a darker black. You can see the black in the top corner there. It's gone quite dark. Don't worry about it. You have to have faith in what you're doing, basically, and assume it will work out okay in the end. Okay, this is a long section because this is where the whole thing comes to life. Um, and we get to make a flocking mess. That was a flocking mess, by the way. Um, so I'm going to use something called flock, and flock comes in different guises. That's neat PVA. It's not watered down. It's just neat, and I have to paint this on wherever I want my flock to stick. Now, flock, like I say, it comes in different guises, but the flock that I use is the stuff that's made of foam, and it's basically foam, granulated foam. How's that? As if you'd got a piece of green, nice soft green foam, and put it through a cheese grater, a small cheese grater at that, and you end up with this green um, um, stuff. You'll see in a second, and it comes in different colours and it comes in different coarsenesses. Is that a word? Um, and so what I'm doing is I'm putting it on neat PVA wherever I want the flock to stick. Again, not rocket science, and it's still no. You don't have to be careful here. You just have to be sensible and not paint it in the river or on a big bald rock. And that's about all the rules to it. So I will cut a piece out here. So we'll jump to the end of me painting PVA because I'm sure you don't want to watch me paint PVA for 5 minutes. And then we'll get on to the interesting stuff, which is the actual flock. Ta-da! By the magic of video editing. So PVA everywhere, neat PVA, not watered down. And then I've opened one of me old yogurt tubs, and out comes the flock. So you see the stuff. It's literally like a green. Just I don't know how to explain it. It's just granules of very soft green foam. Now you can get other kinds of flock. You can get it made out of sawdust. You can get it made out of plastic, but they all behave differently. And this stuff is just, well, it's the best. So all I'm doing is, as you know, as is blindingly obvious, is I've taken this shade of green and I'm just sprinkling it all over. This stuff covers really well. So obviously the end result is wherever this is, it's going to be like grass. Now this stuff, like I say, it's like a granule. So the ground that I'm making obviously is like wild ground. So it's bumpy and has texture to it, and this adds more texture. It follows those contours but just adds texture in itself. Look how solidly those rocks are glued in. That's just sculptor mold holding onto them. It's just they might as well be set in concrete. And again, I've said this 10 times, I'm not being careful here. I'm just chucking the stuff on. At no point have you seen me, you know, having to concentrate, having to, be really careful, and one slight movement, it's all over. I'm just chucking the stuff on because obviously, even when this stuff goes where I don't want it to, it's only going to stick where the glue is. So, and I realize that's blindingly obvious, but it, it, it means you don't have to worry, really. If it goes onto the big rock surface, I just brush it off again. And you have to resist the urge to blow the damn stuff. That's so easy to just suddenly go, oh, I'll just blow that off, and suddenly your whole table's covered in green and your model's completely bald. Um, so from when I started this model up to this point, probably about 2 or 3 weeks have passed. They don't take that long. It's just that I just, like I say, I did it whenever I wanted. So I can't really tell you about drying times because I wasn't in any rush. So, if you put some glue on and walk away for 3 days, I've no idea how long it took. I just know that when I came back, obviously it was dry. So there you go. There's a shade of green. Um, uh, I'll show up for a second. This is the bright green, yeah, by the way. So what I'm doing now is I put some in a sieve. Don't tell my wife. I may have borrowed one of the sieves. And if you rub it through the sieve, it comes out the other side like a powder rather than a granule. And what that does is it fills in between the granules on your model, so it kind of gets good. All those little white bits of glue you can see, it kind of uh, fills between them without making the pile of flock deeper. It's just like a very light dusting if you force it through a sieve. And I'm at pains to point out, I learned all this stuff from Luke's APS. I don't just know this stuff. So that's what's going on here. Basically, I'm just forcing it through a sieve to make it finer. So this is a bright green, and then what I will do next is I will get a darker green, because again, nothing is one color. Grass is not one shade of green, and this isn't really grass, it's like gorse and whatever, but you see that it's a lot darker. So straight into the sieve, and I'm just putting it to add shade in certain areas. Quite a lot. I mean, I'm not being sparing with it. You know me, I'm not doing anything carefully. But I'm not covering the whole thing. All I'm doing is adding. You've got to be careful here. Obviously, tipping it up. It's not completely glued down yet. I'm just adding it to add some texture, some light and shade to the grass. So there we go. And it's all over the rocks. It's all over the river. I could have been more careful with it. It's just not in my nature to do that. So I fix it later. So I made the stupid mistake of blowing it then. I saw myself do that. So yeah, that's what's going on. So you see it's now like two different colors of green. So there we go. And this stuff is called, I can't remember. I think it's called forest floor, but it's basically obviously very red. And then all I'm doing is putting a very small amount just sprinkled about. Again, I'm not working this out. um, there's no subtlety to what I do, but this just adds highlights and a different color to the grassy areas. My phone there can't cope with the focus. Very sparingly. I mean, that tub of forest floor is going to last me way beyond my lifespan, probably. So you just keep messing about with it until you end with kind of whatever effect you're after. So here we are. I picked up a brush and now I'm just cleaning off my rocks. I have to do this because the next stage fixes everything in place. So obviously I want my rocks to be rocks, not not grassy lumps. So you just get a big dry brush. All these brushes, by the way, I got on eBay for like 10 for £1 or something. None of this is expensive. The 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 biggest expense is time doing this, especially when you're learning, because obviously you can spend just hours and hours uh, watching videos and trying to figure out how did they do that bit. And you know, I used to do this a fair amount. I haven't done it for a while, but it means that I've got this stuff lying around in my garage. Like my ISO was empty. I had to get. But I had a bottle of ISO, so I could make some more diluted ISO. I've always got PVA. All of these things like the flock and stuff, well, they don't go off. So I've had them sitting on a shelf for, you know, I don't know how long, a long time. Um, and paint doesn't really go off either, as long as it's sealed up properly. I don't know what I'm pointing at. I've absolutely no idea what I'm saying at this point. But I think I'm saying I've put I've been too carefree with this. Now it's all in the river, and it's going to take me 4 days to brush it all out. So this is where I cut a chunk out, because all I'm doing at this point is trying to get all of the flock out of places I don't want it to be. Wow, it's a good job I cut all that out, because that took me ages. So there you go. I've cleaned up all the bits where it wasn't meant to be. I could have been more careful with that, but like I say, it's just not really the way I work. So there you go. I'm basically now just by hand, like a bit more carefully, but just putting bits in where I feel there's a little bald patch, or whatever. And you can sort of muck about with it forever. So at some point you have to decide you're done. So now what I do is I get my diluted ISO and I spray it all over everything. And like I say, this acts as like a flow aid, so that when I do the next thing, which, yeah, you've guessed it, I spray it with diluted PVA, the PVA soaks right through. And don't forget, underneath this flock is neat PVA. So the ISO soaks through, then the diluted PVA soaks through. It combines with the neat PVA underneath, and you end up with one big gluey mess. The ISO evaporates, the water evaporates, and all you're left with is PVA right through the structure of the flock. But as it all sort of by magic, or however it actually works, I'm guessing magic's not involved, it doesn't change the look of the thing. It's the most bizarre thing, because you think, at every stage of this, there you go, dilute PVA. I wasn't lying. At every stage of this, you kind of think, I've ruined this now. I've ruined this now. And you just have to keep telling yourself, no, you haven't. No, hang on. No, we can get away with this. So yeah, so now, and I don't know what it is with me and dilute PVA. I always have. I'm just making sure there's nothing where I don't want it, because once you've sprayed on the PVA and it's dry, game over, literally. So, but I don't know what it is about me and dilute PVA, but I can never spray it very well. So you'll see me messing about with the bottle a lot, and I get it to start spraying, and then it will stop, and I'll mech about with it. And as you can see, when you're spraying it on, it sprays on with a little force, so you can move the flock around a bit by accident. So yeah, you just need to be mindful of that. But again, so as you can see, which I keep saying, I'm not mucking about here. Just PVA the whole damn thing till it is soaking. And then go off and do something else for a couple of days. I have no idea how long this took to dry. Probably a while, because, like I say, as you can see, it's like don't mess about. Make sure you've got it soaked. PVA is cheap. Water's cheap. Isopropanol, I have no idea. Don't think it was expensive. It's pure isoprop. I don't know whether you have any problems buying that in your country, wherever you are. But here you can buy it very easily. I think I got it from Amazon. It's probably the most expensive thing I've used in this entire. No, mind you, flock's not cheap, but it does last for a very long time. So there you go. PVA everywhere.